a white glove service, the whole nine.
This car is
I don't know, we
stunning.
haven't done an inventory yet.
Wow.
Might be at the front.
This car probably has, of all of our sales transactions, anything we've ever bought, this car probably has the craziest story. When I first started telling people the story, they actually thought I was on drugs. They didn't believe me. Working a few deals right now to give you guys a little bit of a look behind the scenes. We just sold a Bugatti Veyron Coupe. We've just sold a Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport Vitesse.
Most people don't know that they're actually completely different cars.
So, did not even realize until last week that 2024 marks the 10 years of Curated. Now, we didn't sell many cars for the first 2 years. It wasn't our main focus. And Jordy and I literally, I think we had sold 3 or 4 cars. So it's really like 7, 8 years of actually taking it seriously as a full-time gig. But 10 years since we had the concept, since we first launched the concept. And one of the coolest things that I've realized lately as we've talked about this restructuring and we've talked about, you know, bringing in this next generation of stewards of the company is finding passionate individuals that speak our DNA, they live our DNA. And I think you guys have met Steven. We've got an incredible guy from our team, Gabe, that really has sort of opened my eyes. And we're working a few deals right now to give you guys a little bit of a look behind the scenes and has sort of opened my eyes to this next generation of collectors, young collectors that love these end of era analog cars like the Veyron, the Koenigsegg CCX cars, the manual cars. And it's funny because I was resistant to some of this because I was worried about our brand, but it so aligns with what we do and who we are. I mean, you're never gonna see us selling new cars and, you know, mass production cars, but these really unique limited production cars from this last generation that really have inspired through video games, things like that. And you know, we're chasing a few cars right now. We've just sold a Bugatti Veyron Coupe. We've just sold a Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport Vitesse. We are on our way to the office now to work some of these deals with Gabe and Steven. It's cool to see the showroom. There's a mix of 80s and 90s cars, but definitely some great modern classics. 550 Barchetta, Ferrari 16M, a roof RTR, a factory roof car.
This is the man. This is his logo next to his phone. See that? What's going on?
So, Mr. Veyron, I have a few questions. We might buy it and then resell it, but maybe just broker it. It's a one-of-one Vitesse, and I know you had done a ton of research about Vitesse versus Veyron. So if you could give me a few bullet points so I don't sound like an idiot, that would be awesome.
Well, one, you'll never sound like an idiot because you're John Temerian. And two,
Thank you.
And two,
Thank you.
yeah, most people don't know that they're actually completely different cars. So, like, a major thing is like the difference between a 16.4 and a Vitesse or a Super Sport is actually there's a completely different carbon fiber tub that was re-engineered. Not just because the car is open top, but because they wanted the car to handle a lot better. So the chassis dynamics are completely different, all different suspension, different dampening system, a little bit different geometry, different steering rack, bigger turbos, obviously, carbon fiber doors versus aluminum doors, carbon fiber hood, carbon fiber kind of air intake scoops on the rear hatch and next to the engine bay. So yeah, there's a lot of differences, man. It's not just like, you know, you're paying for an extra 200 horsepower. I mean, to get 20% more power out of those cars, they had to really stretch because the envelope was already pushed so far. So at the time, that's what they were able to do, and that's how they did it. That's why the cars are worth probably, you know, call it double standard 16.4 today. So pretty epic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't even know that. All right. So, and I was reading somewhere that there's 96 Vitesse for the world. Do we know a ballpark number of what actually was produced for the U.S.?
I think the U.S. was somewhere between, I want to say like 18 and 22 cars, so less than 24 cars.
Okay, so let me see. I'm gonna chase it, and then I think you're coming to the office, and we'll meet with Steven and go over a few of the deals we have going right now.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. How many Veyrons are we gonna sell before February? That's the question.
God only knows.
Yeah, seriously.
God only knows.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.
All right, brother. I'll see you in a few.
Bye.
This has a pending sale. Did we do intake process?
That
on
was
this
next
yet?
car. I just did the Vemador, then this is getting intake. I have a couple notes. I drove it. We took some heaters.
Love it. Okay, and then that we photographed, but that's sold. Are you still working on the other coupe?
Yeah, well, we have 2 other coupes actually. The other one, I need to find a car for the guy to trade. And then there's the other car, which is also black. I mean,
Okay.
we can give him a cash offer and then give him a
Okay.
consignment deal
And
too.
You're working on a Hammer, right?
Really early, interesting Hammer.
Okay.
Magazine car, 4-cam, 5.6 liters. Really early test car with some great history.
Your guy
Yeah.
said yes to the Yoda?
Yeah, we have a Ford GT Heritage 2020 coming on trade. I'm working somebody on it. I'll send you the info. Yeah, no, I'll send you the info. And then Herschel's working on a package of cars that involves another one of those.
Yep. Take a Ford GT on trade though for the Yoda.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, I was hoping to pre-sell it.
Pre-sell it? Okay.
Yeah. We can pre-sell one and stock the other one because there's 2. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the roof will be available.
Really?
Yes. He wants a CTR.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's his dream.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best of the best.
Yeah. He wants a CTR. You sold the LP640 manual.
Correct. Yep.
That just came back in on trade.
Again?
So,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, this is the Roadster.
And one just brought a crazy number yesterday.
What did it bring?
650.
Nice.
Wrong calipers. Wheels need to be refinished back to original. And it needs service. So the
Okay.
guy that bought it actually was talking to Steven.
Yep.
And he knows that he's got to spend 40, 50 grand.
So I need some updates on 2 cars from you. Callaways.
Yup.
But let's see if this guy closes on the Hammer.
I'm digging on the other Callaway.
Okay.
If he says yes on the Hammer, let me know. I'm already chasing the other Callaway.
He said I will know by end of day.
The Callaway Sledgehammer?
Callaway Speedster. So
Another
it's
one.
funny, we put out the video of the fuchsia car, and we got a ton of people calling us excited about Callaway Speedsters. So
We
another
actually got
interesting
an
niche.
invitation to view a collection of Callaways, about like 20 Callaways that have been hidden away.
Wow.
So that they want to be featured on our channel. He said the invitation is open all because of that purple car.
And then
I
did
need
we
that.
do the intake on the Rosso Vic 6.0?
Maybe.
That's a heater.
You know, that's one of 4 in that color.
Wow.
Yeah, and probably the best one left.
This was owned by a guy out west, my buddy Josh at Bowden Auto House in California. Built the whole car, full Novatec. It's a little too young for this room.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Adults.
Sick though.
It was a
It's
trade. This is not real inventory. This was a trade.
You drove it.
I'm in
How was
love.
it?
I'm not even gonna lie. I would.
You know, it's funny. I'm 26 years old, and this is exactly what everybody would assume that I would want to be driving if I could buy a Lamborghini. But I like old junk. Like, look at my car outside. You know. So I think I'm a Mercy guy. I don't know about this. These,
And that is the moral of today's video.
So Sergio and I actually took out the black car to take pictures of it for inventory, and then I was tasked with handling this car for a shoot, and it was like light years ahead of what that other car was. And you'd think that it's just more power and some carbon here, but radically different car. Just
Yeah.
a radically different car. Just moving the car around, you can totally feel the updates. The steering is more responsive, the brakes are a lot more engaging, and like you said, with the turbos, you can hear them a lot better.
Do you remember your first like Veyron experience? Because for me, it was like a spiritual experience, you know,
It was
because it's
really
like the
cool.
holy grail when you're a kid. You know, everyone talks about Bugattis,
Yes.
right? What was your first experience?
First experience with a Veyron was moving it for the photo shoot that we did at Design District. First one I've ever been in, ridden in, touched, interacted with. And it was so good. It did everything right, but it didn't feel soulless. It actually felt engineered and cared for. This one was done to a very high level, but it felt usable.
Yes, and it's still a little analog compared
It
to
is.
like,
This felt special.
This is special.
This feels special.
So I remember, my first Bugatti experience was actually in a Chiron, right when they came out. And I drove that before I drove a Veyron. But the first time I got to drive a Veyron was at one point Arnold Schwarzenegger's Veyron Vitesse, kind of like a Quicksilver over tan. And I'll never forget that day. The most notable differences, I'll say, chassis dynamics. So suspension, completely different than the 16.4.
Yep.
Better cooling.
Yeah, look how much different the
Bigger
radiator
bigger turbos. Yeah. The other thing is like when you unlock the speed key in this car, like all these aero vents down here become active and they actually will close to have less drag. So that's another thing. But the main thing that most people don't know is this car actually has a completely different carbon tub to the standard 16.4. This car and the Super Sport were just a totally different car. So a little bit lighter, even though it has more power, which is an amazing thing. You know, all the aesthetic features, the updated LED headlights, this air vent that Steven mentioned down here. The horseshoe grill is a different shape, doesn't have a little kink in the middle. You also have stuff like, for example, these air intakes back here are all carbon fiber. The interior has carbon fiber. It has a little bit nicer components that are going to be more weather friendly because the top comes off, so that's another thing. You get lighter wheels as well as opposed to the 16.4. So there's so many things about this car that I can go on and on about, but this is the one to have of a test. So if John can find another one or two, that'd be amazing because these are unicorns, and you know, I think Steven can attest to the differences as well. We love these cars here, and I think they're still pretty undervalued. There's not a whole lot of cars that broke molds and satisfied records the way that these cars did. And then you have the reliability of being a Volkswagen product, right? So anything that these guys design and engineer is going to be built to the highest standard, any weather condition, any amount of miles, any road surface. I think these are amazing, and super fortunate to have been able to be involved in the history of this car specifically, which is probably one of my favorite specs.
By the way, how we do white glove service.
Let's take photos of the accessories and let's just check. See if you feel like you're missing anything before he leaves. Say something. This thing's sick.
We'll take the roof off.
No, it's stunning.
What's the short story with this car?
It was actually delivered new to the founder of WhatsApp, a very acclaimed, well-known car collector. He owned it till about last year, the year before. So the story of this Vitesse is one of the greatest stories, maybe a serendipity or a manifestation that I think I've ever had in my career. I was actually on a family vacation. I promised my wife I'd take a few days off, and I'm walking down a street out in Colorado. I did not realize that there was a major car event happening on the same weekend of my family vacation. And I actually bump into Alois Roof, and we start talking, and we own a Roof RTR at the time. So excited that we had this car, and I walk probably another 2 blocks. I run into a very important collector. He says, "Hey, don't you still have that Roof RTR?" And I go, "Oh my God, I actually just bumped into Mr. Roof and we were talking." And he goes, "And I'd be super interested in the car." Now, at the same time that I was selling this Roof RTR and I had just purchased it from a very good client, the very good client was telling me he'd love one day to find the right Bugatti Veyron Vitesse. And so I just purchased this car, the Roof, and this well-esteemed collector tells me I'd be very interested in your Roof RTR, but I need to sell my Veyron Vitesse. And I start laughing. My wife's there. It's probably 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, man, I'm not even supposed to be here for work or business or this car event. I'm just here on family vacation. But done. Let's make a deal. Let's figure out some sort of a trade. So out front of this hotel, I put out my hand. We shake on a deal. I think he was shocked. I was shocked at the same time. I start telling people the story of how I was just there on a pure fluke. I see this guy who I've known for probably 18, 19 years out front of the hotel, and we buy what, in my belief, is probably one of the coolest spec Vitesses in the world on a handshake deal. And I would say of all the Vitesses or Veyrons, probably one of the most complete. We just got a list, and this is sort of important to note. This is one of the last built cars, which is pretty cool. And it is one of 18, only 18 Vitesses came to the US. Super, super rare. I would say this has got to be the best spec. The pearl white, almost looks like balloon white with the bare blue carbon fiber. We have this car sold, which is super cool. It's going to the gentleman that was wishing for a perfect Vitesse spec. He's very, very picky. You couldn't find a better car for him. So I really have to say thank you to everyone to help make this happen. One day I'll tell the full story on VinWiki or YouTube, because there's so many different nuances that had to happen for this deal to happen. But I'm very, very excited to have this car in Miami, and hopefully in the next couple days be delivering it to its next caretaker.